Beautiful souls, light of love, universal wisdom, shine your love on us. Beautiful souls, unity in love, spirit and angels watching over us. Hello, welcome to Mystic Mindfulness. I'm Christine. Thank you for joining me. It's been about 3 years since I made my last video, and this is me getting back into it. I took some time off to kind of deal with some life issues, and so here I am back again. I've gone through quite a bit of personal growth and insight into some things as well during the 3 years that I had off. I wanted to recap my purpose for these videos that I'm sharing. In my own personal life, I've gone through a lot of grieving in all aspects. I lost a son. He was 4 months old. That was back in 2002. And I've gone through divorce, and there's other grieving processes that I've had to go through too, without getting into too much of those details. But with religion, and my family growing up wouldn't have called it a religion. It's a personal relationship that was founded very deeply on the Bible. I went through a grieving process with the transition of that as well. And I suspect that there are a lot more people out there, maybe in all different belief systems, who've had to go through a grieving process when they've discovered that maybe there are some errors in what they believe. And so that's the reason for this video, is hopefully in discussing these things, we can all heal together and process these emotions so that we can heal. One of the things that was brought up to me within the last 3 years, my brother had said that becoming an atheist is not a choice, and he was referring to one of my previous videos where I had put in some text alongside that said, "Atheists choose." And I absolutely agree with him on this. This is not a choice by any means. Nobody would choose to go through this kind of a grieving process, and there is a process to discovering that your foundation for what you believe isn't solid. So I wrote some things down, so pardon me while I read off of a piece of paper, but I had to have some notes, so here I am. It may be that most people who identify as atheist after having a foundational belief in God have discovered that the very foundations of their belief, which is usually the Bible, and for other religions it might be a different book, has gaping holes, discrepancies, and errors in it. If there are errors in the Bible or other books for that belief system, which claims to be the absolute universal truth, then what is truth? When one questions this, then science, history, and personal experiences are what remains. And even these will have errors in them, which is why when you go back and watch any of my other videos, I say that there's a difference between universal truth and personal truth. And I feel like if you have a personal truth, just call it that, and let other people decide for themselves, especially young kids, what they want to call their own personal truth. An atheist is someone who finds that there is not enough evidence to claim a belief in God. And this is not a choice. Most who unravel their beliefs and find these errors in the Bible go through a deep, deep grieving process, and no one would ever choose to go through that grieving process. Throughout history, we find that humans prefer to have answers than not to know. Often, we find that when the answers aren't known, and the unknown exists, we automatically want to title it as God. When experiences or phenomena occur which we can't explain, is this enough proof or evidence to title it as God? And I do believe that there are errors in pretty much everything, but there's also going to be truth in everything. I can't say that I would call it if I find a truth that hasn't been proven scientifically or through history, and again, there's going to be errors in those things too, I wouldn't just call it like the absolute truth. I would say, this is my truth, this is what I believe, this is what I think. And these are the facts that I can say that, because obviously there's going to be facts, right? There are facts. But at the same time, we can't just tell people what to believe or what to think or, what to feel in each moment, especially with children. I think we all need to discover that for ourselves. And I also think that it's okay not to know. So if there's an unknown, it's okay. We still exist, we're still here, and I do believe that love ultimately is what guides us all into, there's so much more I want to discuss, and this isn't really the video for that, but so I'll leave it at that. But there are other things that I've discovered for myself that I would like to share. But I wanted to go through some of the stages of grieving as well. These are the stages that I went through when I had uncovered my own foundational errors, I guess. I had studied theology because I loved reasoning. I enjoyed inviting Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses into the house. I loved to reason with them. I loved to discuss their beliefs and discuss my beliefs. And the further I got into that, and as well with people who, the books like, okay, so Hope Beyond Hell and The Four Views on Hell. When I read those books, I discovered that even people within my own denomination believed different things than what I believed. And I thought, we're all reading the same book. How is this to be? And that really made me question, if this is the absolute truth, the Bible or whatever book, and you're discovering this in your own belief systems. But for me, this was what I was following, was the Bible. If it's the absolute universal truth, then how can so many people have different views on how to perceive it? I don't know how else to explain it other than that. So it just didn't make any sense that this could be a universal truth and we all have different ideas of what it means and how to read it and what we get out of it. So is there a hell? Do we go to hell? If there isn't a hell, then no one's going to hell. Then what's the point of salvation? What are we being saved from? And so these questions came up for me, and I was digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And if you look at the Greek and Hebrew texts that go along with hell, and hell itself and the different aspects of that, and how people view hell as far as the definitions of them, it's very fascinating. So I would recommend, because there's so much details involved with that, if you have time, and it took me years. I started studying in 1997 was when I really started studying different religions and different beliefs so that I could convince them to become saved, okay? So when I started studying to prove my religion to be right, I was also during that time uncovering things that didn't make sense to my own belief system. So we're now in 2023. If you look at all those years that I had time to study, I didn't have kids during a lot of that time frame as well. So I had a lot of free time to study. So I'm not going to be able to get into all of that, but I truly urge you to truly study and see for yourself. Just study for yourself to know what your own personal truth is. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm just saying study for yourself to know your truth. And that's going to make all the difference anyway. That's truly when my foundation for what I believed fell apart, this is what I have here. This is what I have. And I'm okay. And there's a deep resonating love that flows within me that's beyond comprehension for myself. I can't, it's beyond me. So I'm just saying that when you get to the bottom of the grieving process and you come back, there is a hope and there is an acceptance for this. And it's going to be all right. But here are the stages of grieving, all right? There's shock, denial, anger, there's a bargaining, there's a depression, and there's then acceptance and hope. And nobody would choose to go through a deep depression. Nobody would choose to go through anger, deep-seated pain. Nobody chooses that. And I'll explain my own personal experience with this. When I uncovered these things, when the Bible became unraveled for me, I did go through these stages. And I did go through sadness and crying, and I think a lot of it was because I had been raised to have these beliefs, and for me they weren't just rituals, they weren't works-based. We had some fears, and so for me, I feel like works and rituals are based on fears. So you do these things in order so something bad doesn't happen, so you have a good day. But not all of it was based on that. There was a deep-seated desire to have this relationship with Jesus and with God. And I loved this entity very much, and I would wake up and I would talk to God like he was my best friend. I did this every day and throughout the day. And so then when you unravel these beliefs, you wonder, well, now what am I going to do? I've just lost it. Truly and literally felt like I had lost my best, closest friend. And it was very similar to when my son had died. The difference, though, with when my son had passed away, I still trusted in God and believed in God and knew that God was going to carry me through that. And that is what helped me go through that whole grieving process, was my strong belief. And then when I uncovered things about the Bible, I was like, now what do? I don't have that best friend, that belief system that's going to help carry me through all of my troubles and trials and this grieving process that I'm going through. What do I do now? And that's when I started getting on YouTube and seeking out atheist spirituality. And I had found, let's see this, I believe it's Sam Harris, Waking Up, right back there. Spiritual atheist, because he had experienced his own transformation and doesn't really believe in God. So like I had mentioned before, when there's an unknown, we want to say that there is a God, but there isn't enough proof or evidence for atheists to do that. I have gone through my own journey and no longer really claim to be atheist, but that's my own personal truth. For me, there's a knowing on the inside of me, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna go around telling everybody that this is the absolute universal truth and you have to believe that. And I will say too that it's I have personal experiences that I can't explain, and yes, for me personally, it's nice to have closure for something, and it's nice to put a title on it and say, this is God. Now, if you look at the Bible, which is funny if you think about this, but God is love. And if you're looking at God as love, then everybody's experienced, I am sure, at some point, a deep level of love that goes beyond just the human aspects of love. I mean, the human aspects of love touch upon it a little bit, but this deep unconditional love. And if I just go, okay, well, that's God, then that's God. And I do, again, I said, I can't prove this. There's no facts for this. I think logically it makes more sense to be atheist than not. But I do like to have closure on things, and I'm not making any sense, but I'm just saying that this is my own personal truth because of my own personal experiences, and I will get into those a little later in a later video. But thank you for joining me today. I love you guys so much, and I hope that through your own journey you find healing in your own personal way. And as I get on with this more, I will have more ideas and ways in which you can process these feelings that you're feeling. And maybe I can coach you through those. I would like to. So thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk again soon.